I see
Okay.
it, yeah. Because I'll chop
So
things
that
up, hopefully, and use them for social media, yeah.
sweet. James, so what we'll do, Jason, we'll do our little bit, which is our like bit we always do, and then we'll introduce you, and we'll probably just start by getting you to tell us about Let's Go Skate and tell us what it is and all the rest of that, if that's okay.
Yeah, just free throw it. Just throw things at me and I'll be happy to answer and blab, yeah.
Amazing. Thanks, man.
Very good. Cool. Jack, what are we calling it? Let's
How
go
about
skate.
Let's Go Skate skateboarding school? Is that so people
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
what it is? Yeah, cool. All right, let's do it.
Skate. Okay, cool. All right. Hello and welcome to the Crap Skateboarding Podcast, a weekly dive into skateboarding for the average skater, hosted by me, James.
And me, Jack.
In this podcast, two distinctly average skaters try to cover pretty much everything you might want to know about skating, from total beginners to midlife crisis shredders.
Each week, we will be discussing a range of exciting topics regarding skateboarding in these uncertain times.
And this week, Jack, our topic is...
Drum roll, please.
Let's go skate!
Skate
school!
So he suddenly just took it up a notch there with the enthusiasm. I love it.
Well, do you know what? Normally, Lamorna's in bed and I have to pretend she's not in bed yet. I can hear her talking. It's fine.
So I'm guessing your daughter's not asleep then.
She's not now.
All right. And today with us, we have Jason, who runs a Let's Go skate school. I want to say it's in Cambridge. Is that right, Jason?
Cambridgeshire, yeah. So not central Cambridge, a little bit to the west of it. I am.
Okay, so tell us about it. Tell us what's going on.
Cool. Yeah, so just a bit about me quick. I've been skateboarding since 2004. Loved it. Wasn't good enough to be professional, but I've always done it. And then, got the chance to be a skate instructor one day. Have you guys ever watched TED Talks?
Yeah.
Roddy Mullen's one.
Right. Yeah, I've seen his. But I can't remember which one I watched. But I watched one once. It was like, you need to get a job where you like it, kind of thing like that. And that night, I Googled it and I found a school in London that actually teach skateboarding. I was like, oh, wow, cool. Sent an email and then boom, before I knew it, I was teaching over in London. I will plug them. They're Skates and Ladders. They're still going. I worked for them for about a year and a half. And then it got to the point where I was doing a lot of stuff like I didn't really need them. And, just it's difficult working with people sometimes. So I started Let's Go Skate on my own in October 2016. And I've been teaching skateboarding and I've just gone full time with it. And it's a crazy time right now with people wanting to learn, I tell you.
What a wonderful thing. That's
awesome.
Yeah, it's the dream,
Done
really,
it quick,
Yeah, literally, that's the life that you want.
Yeah.
What's the kind of age range you teach, Jason?
Well, I recommend 6+, although I get 4 or 5 year old requests, but they struggle to take instructions, I find, not been to school as long, not used to even a teacher or whatever. So I generally start at 6+, and then, I do mainly do children, but we've got adults, and I'm super pumped to say that I have a grandmother who has booked in a 2-to-1 with her granddaughter at some point, but I think she's shielding or something at the moment. So they've paid the money, so it's definitely happening. So I will be teaching a granny at some point. So I don't know how old she is, but I've done a few people that are at least in their 40s plus, probably 50s.
That is awesome. So literally the whole spectrum of ages.
I really don't think you're too old to start. You've got to be a bit more careful as you get older, but with the falls and stuff, because you could be more damaged. But anyone can start at any age if they want to start,
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have like how did you develop your program? Do you like a structured program for different age ranges, or how does that work?
Yeah, so I was already, obviously I've been teaching 6 years, so I was already developing my techniques and stuff and working with skates and ladders and then my own experience, but there is now a official qualification. So Skateboard GB created it a few years back, so I am a level 1 skateboard coach. Went on the course and it was handy. Obviously I kind of knew a lot already, but there's a few tips that I learned that helped me out. To bring it back to the question, so I treat depending on the age, I handle it a bit differently. Some very, let's go with all the younger ones. I love the energy. And then I just had some teenagers today, the home ed group. They're a bit more, I've got to tone it down a bit, be a bit more cool, And then obviously the adults, again, like I'm a bit more like, I talk a lot more and explaining things through. Whereas with the kids, it's just a energy and a hype. So yeah, just different techniques and stuff depending on the audience, I guess.
That's amazing. I mean, as a teacher, I can already tell that you're good to go. You're good with people. The fact that you understand how different people need that different energy, because you are performing. And I suppose it's a strange, I don't know, it's a strange concept for me. I think it's a wonderful thing, but I'd never really I don't know. Maybe I just was sheltered, but I never really had heard of skateboard instructors outside of kind of professional skateboarding. When you see the people at the top of their game, people like Letitia, who obviously has instruction and things like that. It's just never something that occurred to me. And when you got in touch with your skate school, I'm genuinely fascinated. I think it's a brilliant idea. Are you? I mean, what's the reaction been like, positive and negative? Have you had any people who have been apprehensive about getting started? And if so, what would you say to people who are a bit nervous about asking for that help?
It's generally positive. I think the stigma around having a instructor is slowly going. There is still some fight back against it. You're like, and for the record, obviously no one ever taught me. But I've got really stinking kickflips, for example, because I learned them bad, and no one helped me. And if someone mentored me, I'm sure I'd have spent more time improving my kickflips. And now I have to live with that. But it helps me when I coach people. Get your basics down. Don't go rush into the big things. Let's get the kickflips good. But when people so the question was about I'll be talking all day. So someone getting into it being nervous. So what are we talking, like children or adult? What should I go for?
Well, I mean, it's up to you. I suppose I was more eat both, really. I think I was thinking as an adult, I'm this terrible kind of adult. Maybe it's because I've reached a certain age where I think people get worse at asking for help, maybe at a certain point in their lives in some respects. I think people maybe I know I'm speaking for myself now, I'd probably get more nervous. And I think that even though I'm a very sociable person, in trying something like skateboarding, I'm probably becoming slightly more solitary and asking for this podcast among the community that we spoke about last week is eroding that again, which is great. But I bet I'm not alone in that there are people who would probably be listening to this or looking at your Instagram and whatnot, thinking, "Oh, what a good idea," who would then not reach out to you just because of
yeah. Well, the first thing to think of is so you guys, obviously I've listened to the podcast a little bit. You used to skate, but you kind of stopped for a little bit and you got back into it. Is that correct? Because that's a big theme in a minute. Is that
yeah, on and off, I think. Yeah.
So cool. So I wouldn't want you to have private lessons with me. I would encourage more social meeting up and trying to get a community going. So very similar to what you've that Facebook group, which is very good. And for the record, I need to say it correctly. What is it? I don't even know what it's called.
The UK Skateboarding Collective. That one.
Yeah,
I'm terrible. Right. I'm terrible. I just think of it as the group, and I don't even call it correctly. That group.
That UK skating group.
Collective. They're doing obviously great things. And I've invited a few of my adult students that have joined, and that's been good. And it's mainly because they wanted to learn, but they never quite picked it up as a kid. But they're the ones that I've been teaching the last year, adult wise, they, really are at the basics. So, they come to me and I help them out. And then it gets to the point where I want to take them to that next level and I want them to get that community vibe and I want them to, come meet up with other people in a similar situation because they don't realize that they're not alone. There are so many adults that are wanting to do it, but they're quite nervous to start. And then if I can get them into realizing that they're not alone, then I'll open up opportunities for them. And just quick, I'm going to not plug this, but I'm just going to state that there are so many mums that want to learn to skate. It's unreal. And once COVID's over, right, because I'm not allowed to do groups of adults, but I am going to get a big group of mums together. When I say mums, their kids learn with me, right? And all these middle-aged women, and we're going to have a fab time, I reckon, because it's really surreal how many people want to do it, but it comes down to they don't want to go to skate park and feel intimidated because there's 10-year-olds doing kickflips and the scooters doing the backflips and they're too intimidated. So it's about getting the correct environment and atmosphere for them, which for me will be Sunday early morning when there's no one around. And yeah, I'm super excited to get the mums going at some point.
I mean, that seems
Mate.
to be a sort of a common theme, doesn't it? I mean, there seems to be a lot of that happening now, because I think people are using it as a reason to spend time with their children or spend time with their families and trying to meet that sort of mutual interest and that mutual trying to learn something new together. So we spoke to Jane about that because her children were doing it as well. And there's a number of people we've seen online who are doing that. And just going back a little bit, just something while I remember I wanted to talk about. Obviously, anyone listening will be able to see this, but when Jason was talking about not getting kickflips right, I was pulling faces in the background because I am one of those people who, again, like I said, never was taught to skate. So my kickflips, I spent years reinforcing bad habits because nobody ever corrected my kickflips, and I can do a variety of other tricks.
How do you do your kickflips? Well, for example, me quick. I'll talk about me quick. So, I probably learned in an hour, which sounds amazing, right? But I actually kicked down. That's how I learned. So I wasn't ollieing and flicking out. I was literally kicking down. I can still do it. I do it just to prove a point. But I have to really try not to do that because it looks rubbish. And obviously you don't get height and you don't catch it because you kick basically like a late flip. I basically was doing late flips as my kick flips. How do you do yours?
So if I'm in a game of skate and I want to not lose a letter, I will reliably kick down just to land the trick.
I'm exactly the same.
When I'm doing it and I'm actually trying to land one, I kick up and forwards. Now, bearing in mind I can frontside flip, backside flip, tray flip, various other things, the fact that I can't kickflip is really frustrating. And it's because I've been reinforcing this bad flick down
kickflip. You just can't kickflip well. You can.
I just can't pop them. I can't pop them at all.
You're probably the same as me.
I do the same because it's like it's a weird thing because it's a habit, even though it's a bad habit. It's like an old friend, isn't it? So if I want to land it, I will kick down because it's the instinctual way.
This is why we need people like Jason to go, no, don't do that. You need to do it differently.
Well, that's the thing. Like I try and nip anything in the bud as soon as possible. I guess if there was money on the line for a game of skate, I'd probably kick down. But no, like for me now, I'd rather take the letter because I'm that like wishing I could get good kickflips. So I can do it. It's just way inconsistent, and then I'll completely airball it, and it makes me look rubbish. And then I'm supposed to be a skate coach. But I think this is an important thing though. Like you've just got to own it. You've got to own it. Like there's no point me trying to be secretive about that and lie because people will realize and call me out. So if I'm just open and honest and like, hey, my kickflips kind of suck. Yes, I can do them, but like I don't really like giving tips because I don't feel like I'm the type of person that should. And I say that all the time to the kids when they want to kickflip tips. I'm very reluctant to say anything because I don't think I'm the best person for that.
All right, Jason, I've got a question, and this is something to do with kickflips.
Yeah.
So back foot, tip of the tail or closer into the concave?
I think people go, you want it more in the concave, I think. But again, like I don't know. Like, right, one big thing that have you heard of Ellis Frost?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I skate with Ellis a lot, and I've been chatting with him a lot about this recently because he's got one of the best kickflips going, and I'm super jealous.
Mm-hmm.
And he always teases me. He calls me Rocket Man because I rocket flip my board. But one thing I've been really thinking about is so obviously people can't see camera, but shoulders facing like trying to think. Now I'm trying to change it so I'm facing forward and twisting my shoulders like the way that I'm going. And that's like, and I notice it when Ellis does it, he always like have his shoulders going forwards. And I think that conversation that people don't talk too much about, the way you're looking, is your head looking down at your feet or you're looking forward towards your nose. I think that's a really important thing that just like, so I'm always looking at ways to improve my coaching, and that's a newer thing that I'm really starting to think about. Like, where's my head looking? Is it looking down at my feet? Or is it looking at the nose? I just personally think that might be more important than actual feet placement because everyone has preferences on where they want to put their feet, don't they? Like we see that from professionals. But yeah, the whole looking thing, I've never thought about it until like the last year. It's like blowing my mind a little bit. Like I always do my tricks looking down. I'm trying to do kickflips going forward.
Yeah.
I'm still
James, I never thought of that, man, until you gave me that advice about a year ago, James. I can't remember what it was for. It just said follow. It was left my head, but it's the same movement. It was my shoulders. Just said follow your shoulders, swing your shoulders in towards where you want to be going, and you that's where you'll land. Yeah. And it's improved my skating tenfold in the last year.
That, funnily enough, I should listen to my advice because that comes from surfing. And the biggest barrier, because I surf a lot, and the biggest barrier in a lot of people learning to turn and learning to maneuver their surfboard is looking where you want to go.
Yeah.
rather than looking at where you are
And
going. So look at where
like,
you want to go and you will move in that direction.
and bringing it back to me giving tips when I'm obviously teaching, like one of the biggest things I spend time doing with children is where's their head looking. So a kick turn on a ramp, okay? Nearly every child, if I don't give them any tips, they're looking at the ramp and they just keep looking at the ramp. But I always would say 1 second before, we've got to train ourselves to be looking over our shoulder, back where we want to turn to. And as soon as they start doing that, boom, they're doing kick turns, you know? So, yeah, it's a big thing, isn't it? Like where your head looking and that.
And that's particularly important for frontside turns, because with frontside turns, you really have to lean
Yes.
back over your shoulder, especially on a big quarter pipe.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to go frontside.
Yeah, we had a big bowl in Cornwall, and I could carve around it backside, no problems. And it wasn't until I brought that aspect in from surfing and really started focusing on turning the shoulder and looking where I want to go that I could actually ride the bowl. And it's these little things, these little tweaks that you might not necessarily think of by yourself. And that's how these bad habits get reinforced.
I know. So one thing that I did take away from that qualification is like how much you need to break things down. Like you don't realize how much you need to break things down sometimes for someone that's learning, because for us, like a kick turn's so easy. We can do it every time. So we forget like a lot of the things that we're doing are natural to us and like foreign to someone when they're starting out.
Absolutely.
Jack, that reminds me what it was. It was your mini ramp when you were trying to do the rock and roll. That's what it was.
Yeah, it was. I always had a thing about rock and rolls where I could do more complex things on the mini ramp. But I don't know if you've ever had something similar where something just doesn't click with you. And there was something about that movement that had always evaded me. So we built a mini.
Do you have your own mini ramp then?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. It's a lot of fun. Do you know what? That made a difference as well. Being able to, which a bit like you saying, taking the mums out early in the morning. I think being able to do something without prying eyes makes you a lot happier to suck for a lot longer. But that was the advice that got it. Jason, I was gonna ask you a little bit about your social media, if you don't mind, because I've been having a browse of your Instagram and bringing it back to the kids. It's wonderful. It's so positive. And the primary school teacher in me was just overjoyed. Like, just really just beautiful, positive. You've really got that positive reinforcement down, but with those high expectations of the children, giving them real targets to aim for and really letting them celebrate that when they overcome their barriers. And I thought the whole thing was wonderful. And the way you've organized the social media, I can see why friends, family, I can see that people get involved and comment and join in, and it has a sense of community about it. Now, I did notice a lot of people, I know a lot of people, I'm going to say, I sound like an old man now, a lot of people talking about your TikTok, and I have no idea what TikTok is, but it seemed to be like
you're a primary school teacher, you know what TikTok is.
I know that it's something the kids ask me if I'm on it, and I say no, and they will snigger at me, but I don't know. I don't know a lot about it, but it seems to be a big part of your presence online. Could you walk me through that a little bit, if you're happy?
I mean, just quick with TikTok, I would say I was like checking it out as an app. I'm a youth worker as well, so I've worked with children, and and I've got my own son as well. So like I know that it was a growing app, and then I got on it about Christmas 2019, and I could see how it was a good app. Okay, and then I didn't really do much of it, and then I remember at one point my girlfriend got on it, and she was just scrolling cat videos all day long. She was hooked. And at that point, I realized that TikTok is not just for kids. It is more than just for kids. It's just started out as girls doing dances on there, right? Cool. So, and I spent a lot of time looking at ways to improve my social media presence. And I'll shout out Gary Vaynerchuk right now. He's not a motivational speaker, but he is. He doesn't want to be. But he's just one person that gives loads of free advice on how to get better on social media. And I consume his content like mental when he kept saying TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. So I kind of realized that I would have a unique presence on TikTok if I did skateboarding content on there for children, because it is primarily children still, even though more adults are getting on. And I was already doing videos anyway of my pupils, but what better way than to show off my students and how they're doing than putting them on TikTok. And then, so I started that in lockdown, just hit a year actually. I've been on there a year now. And it's been insane because obviously it's a lot easier to get followers on there, just for the record. But yeah, kids would see the videos and then they would like want to come and like learn from me, even though they're not in the country. So like, oh sorry, even though they're like different part of the country. And then I just started like doing like live chats with them every day. So 7 o'clock, literally today, that I've already had messages pop up on my phone like, why aren't you live? I've completely forgot to say, because 7 o'clock every day I go live for the kids, and I've completely forgotten to give them a heads up.
We feel very privileged to have you on.
Yeah.
Oh, what an honor.
But what's happened is the ones that like got really into my content then would join my lives every day, and then before I knew it, the kids were all coming together. Okay, and then I am super pumped that there's like friendship groups that have been formed thanks to my social media content. Like for real, I've got kids in London, Leeds, Leicester, like all over the place that are now in the Let's Go Skate group chat that they created because they all found each other because of my content, and they're now like FaceTiming for an hour and a half every evening, and we're literally in the process of like some of them are starting to meet up and they're becoming best friends, and it is just like so super cool that my TikTok content was able to help do that and bring these kids together in a way that they just wouldn't. And it's mainly girls, by the way, as well, which is so amazing because the girls are really starting to get into it now. Whereas obviously it's, more of a male dominated sport in the past, but yeah, I'll just finish on that. Like it's a super good app for me, and I don't know, I'll let you say something. I'm blabbing.
No, it's cool, man. I was just thinking like it has a lot of parallels with when we were talking to Jane about her. A lot of what you've said has a lot of parallel with this. I think it is a thing where social media really does bring people into the fold who have maybe not had the same opportunities or exposure to it traditionally. We spoke to Jane recently, who has an online skate group that she's part of called the Freestyle Skate Coven, which is all female freestyle skateboarders who are learning to do freestyle. And she said that actually she started going with her children, like so many of the mums you've described, and then thought, I want to have a go on a skateboard. But she didn't know other people who she could kind of bring along for the ride. So she's joined this group online, and she said her whole skate crew outside of her children, all the community she has, is an online community, but they're on every day sharing content with each other, giving each other tips, egging each other on. And I do think that the internet, for all the bad rap it can get in some respects, it really has changed the game in terms of developing communities and bringing people together.
Yeah. I mean, what you're doing, Jason. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, because obviously, like, I know TikTok gets a lot of bad rep, and I can't deny that there's some bad things. But what really frustrates me is people need to open their eyes and realize that there's lots of good that comes out of these apps as well. And if you saw some of, like, I'm super pumped. If you see some of the things that I've helped do thanks to that app in particular, it's insane. Like, like I've changed kids' lives, and then like for me, it's also an advertising tool. So like that's mad for me as well. Like when I had opportunities where adults paid me good money to travel across country because they really want to see me, it's like it's insane. Yeah.
I think that particularly young girls in particular, are a kind of demographic who can be quite easily intimidated by skate parks, which are just lots of older boys flying wood and metal around.
Yeah.
And it is really, outside of social media, it can be really hard for them to find peers. It's not like you just sort of bump into a skateboarding 10-year-old girl every day on the high street, is it? But you'll see gangs of, I say gangs, not gangs, but you'll say groups of young boys all over the place. No, that's in my head because I read a really awful letter to a paper yesterday and it made me so angry. Anyway, I'll link you it later, Jack. Honestly, it's just the worst letter I've ever read.
Please do.
But you are literally like sort of the glue that binds these disparate young people from different parts of the country that wouldn't necessarily have peers interested in the same things as them together.
Yeah, I'm helping a bit with that, for sure. Yeah.
And they're the community of the future. You get people into it now. We don't want it to die. We don't want it to lose out to other things. It's something we love, and it's great that carries on.
Revive skateboards. Revive, yeah. Yeah. So one of my older students, who was a teenager back then, like she absolutely loved Revive. Her name is Skate Revive Boards. That into it, and like she's now got a personal friendship with Andy Schrock, and he sends her stuff. And now she's an adult, and now like I've commissioned her to do some work for me and stuff. Like it's just really, really cool that like she's still doing it. And I don't know. Awesome. I just said that quick.
That's awesome. They're the ones that have got the really jazzy, bright boards, haven't they? If I remember correctly. They've
Yeah,
got
so
like,
to me, Revive was like the big one, but now Braille seems to be taking over the world. So everyone talks
yeah.
about Braille, but to me, Braille Revive are like brother companies, to me.
Oh, so are they that like online skate tuition and things like that? Do
Well,
they?
to me, it's more like they've created a whole new industry. Like Revive and Braille is like, so different to Thrasher and some of the other core brands, like what they're doing. And I back it, I'm cool. But yeah, like,
Well, they sponsor Johnny Geiger, don't they?
and I
If I
like him.
recall.
He's a sick skater. I like watching his stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he tries to replicate a lot of Mullins' old freestyle tricks, which is quite good fun to watch him try like 1,000 attempts at doing like a dark slide.
I'm
Definitely.
gonna have to
Yeah.
look into it. I feel I don't know enough about Revive. I feel you see a lot about Braille, but I think I may have missed the boat on
Well,
Revive. I need to.
Revive Aaron Cairo's board is Revive have a board for Aaron Cairo, so I think they're linked.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
they are. And Force Wheels. It's like they're all like taking over the world. I think it's just because Braille have done a lot of online tutorials, whereas Revive
Yeah.
was more, well, Andy went down a different road, but like they're both huge. Yeah. And it's quite insane, really. Like that these companies are now like bigger than the ones that I grew up loving.
Yeah.
And there's we could talk about that all day long. There's a whole discussion on all that, but I'm down with it. It's cool.
You're
Similar to
definitely
your, well,
forward
that's,
thinking,
yeah,
in
and it's
terms
similar
of.
to you.
Go
Sorry,
on, James.
carry on. I was saying,
Oh,
similar
okay.
to what you're doing is that Braille and Revive have been built up around YouTube, which is a social media video platform, and they've become huge international companies through these social media platforms. And what you're doing is building your company through social media platforms.
It's similar, more smaller scale, I'd say. Yeah, but yeah,
Well, they were small scale to begin with.
they were.
And
They
also
were.
you've
Yeah.
got to learn. You've got to learn your lessons. I think it's nice. It's good to see that you're taking. You're not fighting against the tide. You're kind of learning from what's being done and taking it in your stride, and that's empowering you and empowering your company and empowering these young people. Through
Yeah,
that, rather than fighting the tide of progress in a way that we can all be guilty of sometimes. I think you're doing it the right way.
yeah. It's easy to go down that road, and you could be all like angry with it all, and like because the best in the world aren't getting the same exposure as Johnny Geiger and some of these other guys, and like. And I will plug him right now because he deserves it. Joe Henson, for example, is like to me the gnarliest skater in the UK, and I film him, and like he's insane, but like he doesn't get as much exposure. Why? Because he's not doing social media the way that Revive and Braille do. So as crazy as it is at skateboarding, like people don't always want to watch the craziest stuff. They care more about seeing the progress and the story behind it. And I'm trying to do my own bit like that as well with what I'm doing. It's learning how, you know, so social media is still like a new thing if you think about it. Like we haven't been trained on like how to handle social media, how to best sell yourself on it. And you can go on courses and all this kind of stuff, but like we're still in the early age of it. And the best way to get yourself out there is tell your story. And that's just kind of what I'm doing these days. And yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like personality in a lot of cases is trumping skill
Yes,
if that skill is quite quiet and sort of more
definitely.
prone to sort of withholding themselves.
But I think that's a trend, though. I think that happens each generation in a different way. I think that there's always a section of consumers, which is what we are ultimately, that we like to see the people that we're looking up to as human, and we'd rather connect with
Yeah.
people on that level rather than just adoration. I think that gets tiring quickly, and I think social media really breaks down that boundary in quite a powerful way.
So Jason, just going back to your skate school, let's say, just for hypothesis sake, if I'm a complete noob, I've never skated before, I really want to learn how to skate, I've come to you and I've said, I really want to learn how to skate, I've got a board, what's the first thing you'd get me to do? How would you go about it?
Cool. So the first thing I do is check on feet placement. So I have a 1, 2, 3 thing. So point 1 is your foot parallel with the board on the screws. Point 2, you put your back foot on the back screws, and then point 3, you twist the front foot. And that was something that I learned. That's actually something I've taken away from the course I went on. So I'll do the feet placement first. Once I see, and adults do that quite quick. So once they've got their feet on, then we'll start getting them pushing. The thing with adults is they've got more body weight, so they're going to wobble a lot more. So I have to try and encourage them that once your feet are on the screws, your balance is going to be fine overall. A little harder with adults, but yeah, and I'll get them pushing right along. And then once I'm happy with that for a bit, I normally add in popping the board up, quick little thing, pop the board up into your hand. Then I kind of get them to do a little bit of a caveman, like the Tony Hawk games, they call it caveman. I don't know, like when you jump on the board, I do like a beginner one of that. And I'll get them practicing doing that for a little bit. And then normally I'd start to try doing roller fakies. So going up and down a ramp is something that most people can do really quick, okay? Just go up and down, don't have to go too hard or too fast. Then generally try and get them to go down a flat bank, okay? And then that would be the essence of a first lesson with me, to get someone, most people can do this, kids, adults, pushing right along, going up and down a ramp to backwards, and then hopefully being able to go down a flat bank, as long as your local isn't insane with some like really big one. Most of the newer parks are getting nice little ones in there now. And, most people just want to be able to push and ride along. And it's not that hard to do. It is just feet placement. It really is feet placement. Now, I've taught thousands of people, mainly kids, but I've done quite a lot of adults. And I've just got to give them the confidence to make them realize that you can do this. Like just get those feet on the screws and your balance will be fine. It's just like standing still at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I think that's something that's really important about teaching generally, isn't it? Because we all take such small things for granted sometimes. Being good at something doesn't make you the best teacher of it. I think it's a very different skill is teaching something.
Yeah. For sure. I've got mates that would probably want to help me out, but even though they're better than me at skateboarding, and I just don't think they would have the mannerisms needed to deal with customers in a way that I do, And yeah, it's not skill. It's more being compassionate and understanding that they're learning. Giving them time and when they fail, like, don't worry about it. Like, we're going to give you the time to learn in your own way,
Yeah, it's
and
like the skateboarding equivalent of like when you help your nan on the computer, and
yes.
you accidentally say, well, what you've got to do is copy that, paste it into Word, and then you export that as a PDF, and that's what you want. And they go, what are you talking about? And then you suddenly realize, actually, all of those things that you just are second nature to you, from an outside perspective, are meaningless. And you do have to, like learning to read, like when you're teaching a child to read, you have to break it down to such a finite level. And I think most people forget that everyone must have been there at a point.
The adults like to hear everything and break it down. They're a bit more asking questions and going deep, whereas with the kids sometimes, or obviously you're a teacher yourself, some kids just need to keep going. And I kind of learned that I literally let kids fail sometimes just so they can see what it's like to fail. Because if I keep talking, telling them, do this, head turn up, blah, 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 they're going to get overloaded. So I've been thinking about this the other day. Like, I was just watching a kid yesterday and he kept failing because I knew if I kept telling him stuff, he just wouldn't want to listen, because some kids just need to go. And then I let him fail a few times and then I gave him the tip and then he was more ready to hear it.
Yeah.
I think that's it, isn't it? And certainly, do you find that was going to be my next question. You mentioned one of them already, is what are the key differences between a child learning, say a 6-year-old, 7-year-old, and an adult learning? Now, you've mentioned sort of the breaking down of things and being more meticulous about your instructions, but are there any other kind of major differences in how the different age groups learn?
So, yeah, adults will obviously listen better and can take in what I'm saying, but the adults generally have a bit more fear, which that being said, some kids are scared, some kids get scared. So adults can start dropping in quicker if they have the belief they can do it, because adults understand how important it is to get your body weight over that board. And when I teach kids dropping in, they just don't push down hard enough. But adults, like, if I can get them past that fear of it, they'll be dropping in. Mainly being scared. And just on a side note there, like, I think we can get people dropping in really quick. This is one thing that I realized in 2019 summer. Like, I can get people dropping in really quick now, and dropping in is like a huge thing. Like, it really boosts your confidence. I talked to 2 people today actually dropping in, so I'm super pumped on that. Definitely better to get into a skate park and learn ramp stuff than trying to do ollies and kickflips as well. Just saying that as a side note.
So just get sort of the balance and just learning to ride the board and learning to shift your weight on different surfaces, essentially.
Yeah, because your board control, you can never practice board control enough. Like, I don't think there's many things out there where even after a year of doing it, you could be pushing and still not look completely fluid. Like it takes so long to be able to push and look really nice to get to that top level, right? So like you can never get enough practice in. You can never keep practicing board control and your balance. And the best way to do that without even realizing is just being at skate parks on the ramps and stuff, in my opinion. Other people might differ. I started on the streets, but it took me a long time for me to get more natural on the ramps. I was very, it took me years and years to learn axle stalls, all those kind of things. Whereas now I wish I was doing more ramps and I wasn't learning kickflips within an hour because I did rubbish, as we talked about earlier.
I mean, that's kind of like, as adults, that's what I find myself having to do anyway, is just to warm up and get my joints moving, is just roll around the skate park for 20 minutes.
Adults love bowls, actually. Yeah, adults are very keen to be cruising more, less on the tricks, which I think I agree with. And a lot of them just want to whiz round bowls, and that's cool. Yeah. So
what's the highest level thing that you've taught somebody so far, just out of interest?
Ooh,
that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, because what happens is obviously when you get to a certain level, like for example, I have introduction to skateboarding course, like people have never been on it. I have returners, which have done that course, but they need a little bit more jazzing up. Then I kind of do intermediate where they're kick turning, maybe dropping in. Then I have advanced. When you get to advanced, it's like, it's not about me teaching you anymore. Like the best way to learn is just to be around like-minded people. So, I mean, for example, I had two of my best students yesterday. They could both shove it, but they've never done a shove it to fakie on a flat bank. So that just became a challenge. And it's not me really giving tips. It's more me about giving direction and guidelines because, like it's so hard to actually teach skateboarding. But it's more about like going down certain roads, certain paths. So I think of it like this. Like I think this is kind of cool. Imagine a tree. I don't know. And you've got roots. And a beginner's right at the top. You've got the first route, okay, and like you're pretty much teaching them the right things. Like try not to do Mongo if you can, which is an interesting one. When I've got big groups, I can't always correct the Mongo. Like I do make a decision to try and correct Mongo if I can, and normally I'm successful. But when there's big groups, it's not always possible. And some kids are so rooted in Mongo that I'd rather them have fun, and it's absolutely fine to stick with Mongo. But it does affect them a bit later on with balance and stuff. But yeah, so right at the top with the beginners, I'm doing the same stuff pretty much. It's like to a book, and I've got my routine dialed. And then like think of roots coming out, and then you start learning kick turns over here, and then you're learning this and that. And before you know it, the roots are getting really big. And then it gets to that point where you just pick what route you want to go down and what do you want to learn. And maybe your instructor can't do that. So I've got one kid, I'm going to shout him out, Harry. He has got like the best no complies, not 180, just a standard no comply where you ping it off your knee, which are very hard. I can't do them. And, I'm so happy that the student managed to learn something that I can't do, I get super pumped. And I tell him, you need to no comply everything because that's an amazing trick. That's so hard to do. I don't even know what the original question was now, actually.
What were you saying? Thing you've taught somebody. And I think you just kind of answered it.
Right, to the point. I mean, do tail stalls, axle stalls. We don't get too hard because it's like,
I think that makes sense. It's more about giving people the route in and the confidence. Yeah. And giving them the kind of, like you said, the basics that let them become a skateboarder, essentially.
Yeah, and it sounds like what you're doing.
There's no rules, there, really. Sorry, I'm interrupting you again. There's no real rules. I think, you can do what you want, but I think there's guidelines that are important to follow. And I do believe it is worth having like one, obviously it's just, there's other instructors, but one lesson with me, just so that I could A, tell you about any red flags, B, instill confidence into you because you're probably doing good and you don't realize it, and just to then set you off on your path, because at the end of the day, I'm a cost and I understand that, and you don't need to be paying me all the time to learn to skateboard. But yeah, long term, you need to get that friendship group going with your friends because that's the best way to learn, when you get that hype up and you're like excited. And I'm just going to say this, but I did a nollie down a 5-stair today, and I haven't nollied anything in ages. I was at the skate park after lessons, and I had to get myself pumped up. And there's adults there, I don't really know them, but none of the adults gave me any juice. And I sat there and I'm thinking to myself, I would rather be skating with my 10-year-old advanced students right now because they'd be cheering me on. And I need that really. You need that, let's bring it up and come on, you got this. Because I and then as soon as finally they just say something to me, and they're like, "Oh, you'll get that," and then I did it like 2 tries later. You don't believe in yourself sometimes. Even me as a skate coach, like so. But like encourage each other. That's the best way to learn.
Mate, like if I'd been there, I'd be slapping the tail against the floor. So I'm that guy that sits and watches and won't leave until somebody lands their trick. Right?
Nice.
Me and a guy were trying the handrail a few weeks ago.
Ooh.
I was trying to lip slide it, and I was trying to lip slide it. He was trying to board slide it, and I got the lip slide after a few attempts, and he was trying to board slide it, and I was like, I really need to go back home because I've got loads of stuff to do. But I'm so psyched, and this guy's tried this 100 times. He's getting so close. I really want to watch him land.
Yeah.
But you've kind of pulled on something really important there with the not necessarily showing people what hard tricks to do. And you mentioned it with doing shove-its and doing shove-its on the bank, is that teaching people how to use what they already have on different terrain and pointing people in the direction of using what they can do creatively.
Yes.
So, that kid who can no comply on a flat, that's wonderful. And then you can maybe go, actually, do you know what? I can't no comply, but I can tell you can probably do that, over that ledge over there or something like that.
And then I filmed him do one off a 1 foot high ledge, which was, I'm sure we could probably figure out how to no comply rock fakie. Like the opportunities are endless. And then if I just go back to my route analogy again, it's like, I've forgot what I was going to say.
It's all right. And just going back to what you said about interrupt away. We're here to hear what you've got to say, mate. So
okay,
if you do talk over us, feel free.
Cool.
You not got it, the root thing? I'm so sorry.
No, it was
something about roots.
Yeah, so it's more. So obviously, I've taught a lot of people, so I've got experience. So I kind of know those routes, what kind of routes you want to go down, like that you've got the best chance of doing. Obviously, eventually you get right to the bottom, and like you decide if do you want to spend time doing a nollie kickflip or do you want to do a 360 flip? Like that's advanced. I don't normally get that far, but when it comes, one of my students the other day, she's got fakie shove-its on dial. Like, why don't you try a fakie big spin? Because they're not that much harder. You can already fakie kick, you can already fakie shove it. Start throwing them together, but they might think that's really crazy hard. Like, what? I can't even 360 shove it. But like, just for me being around people as I was a kid, I remember everyone was doing fakie shove-its. That's one of the everyone was doing fakie big spins. That's one of the tricks that you start to learn before you maybe learn a nollie kickflip, because a nollie kickflip is going to be a lot harder. So when I do my lessons with my more advanced ones, it's more about me just knowing what they can already do and then just throwing things at them. And it doesn't always stick. It might not work. Like she didn't even do a fakie big spin, but I saw enough of it to know that she could go away and do that. So just start. Yeah, I don't know. I lost it.
Fakie big spins were definitely one of our major first learns, weren't they, Jack? Like those were our first tricks. We were like, oh, this is going 360 degrees. This is a sick trick.
Yeah. To be honest, I still feel like that every time I do it. Like I still just do it off a ledge or something. Like I did that one the other day. We were skating in Bath off the ledge. Yeah. And it still feels great. It's just buttery. It's just something about it that just
real smooth trick.
Yeah.
Jack's not giving himself enough credit here, because Jack did this off a ledge that looks and sounds like it's not challenging, but it's got massive cracks in it. It's about a foot wide, and it's landing on what is essentially gravel. So
it wasn't just fakie big spin on it too.
Yeah,
is this fakie big spin we're talking about?
Yeah. So I enjoyed it,
and I find this really interesting. So obviously, because I suck at the basics, I've been really focusing more on the basics, and because I have done some pretty advanced flip tricks. I've done triple heel flip stuff, and I've done some pretty crazy stuff. But because I suck at the basics, that frustrates me a bit. So the other day, I learned fakie big spins off a step up, and I'm hyped on that. I've been able to fakie big spin for God knows how many years, but I've never done one up a step up. So I did one at March Skate Park, a small little step up, and then I ended up doing a gazelle one, which is even cooler. But anyway, going back, I was at one of my locals the other day. The step up's bigger. And then it was a little bit of a challenge, but I fakie big spin up it. Now I've done tricks way more advanced upper step up than that. But for me to be able to bring it back to the basics and get something like that, it's pretty cool. Whereas that's maybe not as impressive as some of the other stuff I do, it still felt good to me. And hopefully I can get them a bit more consistent than some of my, doing laser flips and all that, which for the record, when we film things for Instagram and that, takes us 2 hours. And you don't see all the failed attempts. And really, I want to encourage more consistency and just being able to flow around a skate park and don't go down the route that I do often, because, you know, and I still do it, of trying the same thing over and over and over and over, which, don't get me wrong, it works sometimes. If you're trying that handrail, you're trying that board slide, that can be good, but you've also got to try and like pick your battles, and don't always go into that battle because it's going to eat you up inside. And don't get me wrong, I love the don't ever give up mentality, you know, and I thrive off that as well when you're really ready for that battle, but pick and choose them. Like, let's not always go into these crazy battles. And that's something I'm really having to do that myself now, and take a step back sometimes and be like, is this worth my battle right now? Do I really want this enough, or should I just chill with it and go back to enjoying skateboarding a bit more and getting really angry because I can't do a trick?
Yeah, and I totally get that. And because quite often, certainly with these battles, you can be trying something over and over again and you're getting really close, and all it actually takes sometimes is to go away, chill out, relax, come back to it a day or two later, find the groove and before you get it, you know? And I completely get what you're saying with the easier tricks as well. Like, I would be much more, with that big spin up a gap, like I'd be psyched to get a big spin up a gap because I can't pop big spins high at all. Like, I can 360 flip that gap, no dramas. But if you ask me to big spin it, I'd be way more proud of that. Equally, like, if there's a little two-set that Jack and I skated recently. Like, it took me maybe 3 or 4 attempts to tray flip it, but I couldn't for the life of me kickflip it. And I'd be way prouder kickflipping that than tray flipping it. Because for me, even though one is technically the more advanced trick, the kickflip would be more of an achievement.
Yeah, and it's good. I think people need to hear you saying that, and they need to hear me saying that as well, because, I mean, I would love to get I actually did a 360 flip today up a step up, so I need to edit that footage. I'm pretty hard to small little step up, and I'm my very first 360 flip up one, so I'm happy with that. It wasn't too nice, but it'll do. But like, it is good. Oh, no, I lost it. I'm sure you'll be cutting those bits out where I'm like,
we had it. One thing I really like that you said, I hadn't managed to, it was going back a bit, it was just something that struck a chord with me that I really liked, is you were talking about how when you've got a kid who's kind of going in a certain direction, you can kind of see that and almost find the thing that would be a good challenge for them. Or it sounded in a way like it's that, for me, the beauty of skateboarding is that people do it differently, right? And that actually, if you've got 3 or 4 friends, like the friend group that we skate with, I know that when we were on this little set or this little ledge in Bath, and we were all skating the same terrain, but the 3 of us will all be doing largely different things, because I think we all gravitate towards slightly different styles within that. And I think that makes it a more enjoyable session. It's not about 100%. One-upping each other. It's about seeing what your friends are going to do with it. And
for sure.
And I love that. And I love that that's encouraged, you know, because I think as much as it is a sport, as much as it's an art to some people, I love this thing that actually it can be competitive, but actually it can be so creative, and that's where a lot of the enjoyment will come. And if you've got a group of friends, being able to take enjoyment from, like, seeing what you will do with you'll do things that I'd never have thought of doing, James, when we skate, you know. And you know, and I see Tom, another guy who skates, he'll just be doing completely, like him and his pressure flips, for example, he'll just be doing things that I wouldn't even think to do. And I think
you might try it.
Yeah,
you
sometimes.
Might want to do it.
Yeah, you know? But then also I'm
good.
quite like handsy with my board, so I tend to try and do a lot of that stuff, you know. And I think it's really nice that we all feed off each other, but also see things differently, you know.
Yeah, Jack very much has the no fingerprints left style of skateboarding.
It's so much better skating with people. Like, I pretty much skated on my own today, and I just go in my own routine, doing my own tricks. But like, one example I've thought of is, I think it was last year, one of my mates, I don't even know him that too well, but he's a friend, I guess. He came out that day and he loves doing feeble stall, and then he pops it into tail. Okay. And I was watching him do it, and I was like, that actually looks cool. And I said to him, I'm going to learn that. And like, you know, and he was cool with it. And then I learned that trick, and I never thought to have ever wanted to do a trick like that. And if I hadn't been with someone in that situation, I would never have probably tried it. I'd have kept doing my standard switch hills, which I love doing everywhere, you know?
Yeah, man, for sure.
How long have we got, by the way? I have no idea on the time.
Oh, I might have to call it quite short, like fairly soon. I do apologise. I've got dinner to make.
Cool. Right. Can
I
I bring up one thing like I want to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's relevant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's your thing, man. Go for it.
Cool.
Your show, man.
So my thing is this. So many people obviously stopped skateboarding, and they've all got back into it. Okay, and how super cool is that, right? Like, I've seen a massive boom with adults. They all did it as kids. For whatever reason, they've stopped, and now they're back into it. Okay, and I think that's super cool. And I don't gatekeep or anything like that. We've got to get more people doing it. I don't believe. Obviously, I never stopped. Okay, and I think to myself, like, why did I not stop and other people did? Okay, so what? I don't believe I loved it or enjoyed it anymore. I'm going back to when I was in year 8. And all those kids that learned with me, and there's a whole group of us. None of them do it anymore. But well, they might want to start again. Who knows? But it's like, what can we do to try and ensure that this doesn't happen again? Because I feel like most people wish they didn't stop. Like, cause I'm in that UK skaters group. I can't think what it's called.
Yeah, UK
and,
Collective.
I feel so bad, honestly. But like, all these people that stopped and now they're getting back into it. Like, why? Like, what can we do to ensure that that doesn't happen again? Because I think skateboarding is amazing. Socializing, mental health, fitness, like all that. It ticks so many boxes. What do we do? And is it? I mean, hopefully now we're getting more skate parks built, so there's more opportunities to go do it. That's one of my theories. Is it because there wasn't as many skate parks? I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, people have families, they have jobs, but so did I. Like, why was I different? I don't understand. Like, can you help me think that through? Like, what? I don't get it. It doesn't, like,
I think, one thing to clarify here, that just because I think it might have cocked it earlier, is a bit of a misconception. James and I never really stopped skating. I think we've always skated. No, it's cool, because I think what we do is we've kind of like been through stages of skating more. Like, I know when I started teaching first, I maybe didn't skate as much, but I still stepped on a skateboard like a few times a month and had a really good session in my downtime. But then there's times when I think
but the people that haven't been on their board for like 15 years and they come back. Like, what can we do to encourage that not happening anymore? Because I think, I don't know, like, I don't want that to happen. I don't think.
Do you know what? I think the community thing's massive. Go on, James. I
think what's happened this year is that because a lot of people have been confined to their houses or working from home, and we're in a situation where we can't socialize in the traditional manners that adults would socialize. So you can't go to people's houses for drinks, pizza. You can't go to the pubs, which a lot of people grow out of their hobbies and start doing more traditional adult means of socializing, because it's sort of, they know more people that do that, and they start to meet people that don't skate, and they get
discussing mortgages over a beer.
Yeah, exactly. And but now certainly this year, people needed that escape. They needed to escape from their houses. They needed escapism from what was going on with the pandemic. They needed to socialize. They needed to spend time around people. They needed to spend time outside, and they needed something to occupy their minds. And skateboarding ticks all of those boxes. So I think what's happened is that a lot of people became adults and developed social circles outside of skateboarding and became more traditional in how we interact with each other by going to pubs and dinner parties and all that kind of thing. And that took over from skateboarding. And now this year we've had the opportunity to skate more. And it has been a situation that's forced us to want to skate more. And that's what's brought a lot of people back from out of the woodwork. And I think going forward, I think going forward, I think we just need to remember this year and why we enjoyed it so much and why we got brought back to it, and try and remember how important these things are to us. And I think it's just trying to remember and remind ourselves that actually these are things we love. And a lot of people have met other skaters this year. So we've now got these social groups, and hopefully they'll sort of kickstart this all over again. I think just what we need to do going forward is remind people why they do it in the first place. I think people just sort of didn't mean to stop. They just didn't have the time anymore.
Do you know what? I think, expanding on that as well, I think that as an adult, I can catch myself having these moments where I have this idea in my head sometimes, and I think people do, where kind of skate parks are intimidating, where they think that if you go in as an older skateboarder, the older you get, people expect you to be better. And obviously with skateboarding, people progress at their own rate, and that's absolutely fine. And and I think that there is a little bit of a feeling, and it's probably exists in people's heads, but I know I'm not alone in this, where when you step into a skate park, you feel like people are looking at you to see what you can do if you're a little bit older than the other people there. And I think
it's such a shame.
Yeah, but I think that the answer to it, similar to what James is saying, I think the answer to it is community. And I think the internet is a big part of that, because actually suddenly your local skate park might be full of like 17-year-olds doing whatever they're doing and having whatever attitude, good and bad, that those particular group might have in different areas. But I think when you suddenly get outside of your box and look into the wider community and say, oh, look, actually, a lot of people are like me and a lot of people are coming at it from this angle, it makes you feel empowered and like, yeah, I can do this. I can have a go. And I think that my confidence, while I never stopped skating, I think my confidence definitely troughed for a while. And I think that the community online has steamrolled it right back up. And I think that's so by cool. Keeping a strong community, I think, is the answer.
And then you can meet up with people, so you know you're not going there on your own, and you'll see them there. And I just want to say on that, like, everyone has anxiety, and and we get anxious, but like, be that person to make that first move and chat to the other person. And this is something I'm really working on myself. Like, overall, I don't really get much anxiety, so I'm blessed with that. But I'm now trying to go that extra step, and I'm actually trying to make those connections and smile at someone, like, how are you doing? Like, if you do that with a fellow skater at the skate park, like, you will make so many friends. And that's what these people do. If you're just getting into skateboarding, that's what you've got to do. Like, be brave. And if you see me, even if you see someone really good, like, I will still stop and chat to you, even if you can't push. Like, if you make that connect, if you put yourself out there and chat to me, any skateboarder at any level will chat back to you. Like, I reckon so. No one's that. Yeah. Like, just reach out and be confident and have a chat with someone, and you'll make friends.
Yeah, and you're in a very fortunate position where you get to do what you love for a living as well.
And I'm at skate parks every day. Am I looking burnt? Like, we've had this sun. I'm like, I swear,
look a little bit rosy. I think we
look a bit pink.
Oh man, I was teaching in the snow the other day. It was only 2 weeks ago, and it was snowing in the lesson, and now I'm getting sunburned. It's mental.
It's that unique thing about concrete skate parks, is they reflect the sun so strongly. You don't realise how burnt you get.
I never thought of it like that.
Was at a skate park.
Really? Yeah, is that true then?
Yeah.
It is reflective of concrete.
Yeah, so white concrete is very reflective. So new modern parks, which are made of that sort of bright white concrete, will reflect the sun back at you. So some of the worst burns I've ever had were at Truro Skate Plaza when it was brand new, because the whole place was shining white. Within like 10 minutes, I was lobster red. I couldn't figure out why, but yeah, it's mad.
My worst burn was on the Metal Mini at Helston. Metal in the sun.
Physical, isn't it? The black metal mini in the sun. Like, it's like
my goodness,
golding iron, wasn't it? Like branding yourself with the logo of the skate company.
Yeah. Jason, before we go, buddy, you've been an absolute treat. This has been really lovely.
Cool.
This is our normal plug yourself bit. Do you want to tell people who are listening who might be interested in getting in touch with Let's Go Skate, Skate School? How should they go about doing it? Where can we find you?
Cool. So obviously I've got the website, www.letsgosskate.co.uk. There is email to contact me on there. I personally don't like emails that much though. So if possible, I'd rather just hit me up on Instagram or Facebook and send a message like that, which would be Let's Go Skate UK. The account that has Let's Go Skate has nothing on it, and I want to know if I can get that. But until then, I'm Let's Go Skate UK, unfortunately. Just reach out and send me a message. And I always give free advice as well. If anyone ever shoots me up, that's the other thing. I don't do DMs with the kids, but I give so much back to the kids for free, and it feels good to do that, And I'm blessed. I've now gone full time, and I get paid to teach skateboarding, and it's amazing. So it's always worth me giving back a bit. Always give free help.
Yeah. What a dream, mate! Thank you so much. It's been great having you on. It's been a great chat. Obviously, you're so very passionate about this, and this is lovely to talk to you. I'm
going to finish with one fun thing for you. Remember, I didn't get to say. We mentioned Letitia Buffoni earlier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So back in NAS, 2007 or whatever, she was competing. No one knew who she were, and obviously I couldn't get on the pro course. And then when it was the women's practice, unfortunately for them, we were bad, and we'd all went jump on there. And I was skating next side Letitia Buffoni while she was practicing for the contest. And now she's the biggest name in female skateboarding, which is pretty cool.
That's insane.
That is very cool.
That's absolutely nuts. That's wicked.
She was like some young teenage girl no one knew about. And then I think a few of my younger mates fancied her. I'm a bit older than her, but yeah, it's funny. Cool.
Mate,
thank you for having me.
Mate,
thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Before I go really quickly, we've had the best friend of Dead Dave on here 2 weeks ago, and now we've got the best friend of Letitia Buffoni. That's what I've just said. On the same, we are friends to the stars on this podcast.
I have no idea if she'd remember me, but I didn't chat to her. We were literally snaking her. How crazy is that? How bad's that? Because we don't get to go on there. And it's like, oh my God, we get to go on the course. Like when the women one, they won't kick us off, you know. I feel bad, but yeah.
Mate,
cool, right. Keep doing your podcast, guys. I will try and enjoy them. I've enjoyed being here. If you ever get people back on again, I'd be keen. I'm going to look out for other podcasts I can go join because I love chatting and I can talk all day. Thank you, though.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, mate.
Keep in touch.
Thank you so much. Right, take it easy, Jason.
All the best.
All right, see you guys.
Bye, buddy.